Despite dropping out of school at age 15 and working in a call center at age 18, Marissa completed a computer science degree at the University of Illinois last year and was honored as one of 12 Knights of St. Patrick, a distinction given to a select group of top students in the College of Engineering. A scholarship from Microsoft led Marissa to the present, where she now works as a software development engineer on the Microsoft Word team. Marissa, we're so excited to have you and even more excited to hear your incredible story. Let's give a warm welcome to Marissa Hellison.
So I just want to say you guys are totally impressive. As you just heard, I wasn't doing a whole lot at your age, but this is incredible. It gives me a lot of hope. So let me tell you some things that I haven't wanted to tell people for a really long time. I never graduated high school. I have a GED in a drawer somewhere that I earned at 15 years old when my dad complained too much about me not doing anything in homeschool. When I was 18, I wanted to fix the mistakes I made and go back and do it all over again. So I decided to start community college. 4 semesters of remedial math in front of me. Then, one day, the first non-relative person showed me how much they believed in me. I'll never forget the day Steve came to my geometry class. He sat backwards on the desk and told us we could all be engineers. I wondered if he knew where he was because we were in an elementary geometry class. He couldn't possibly think that me, a girl who was learning about proofs of equilateral triangles, could be an engineer. But he did, and I felt it profoundly. This moment can happen a lot in one's life, and I'm willing to bet all of you at one point have met another human being who knew you could do it. That feeling that you can do anything just because another human knows you can, that's an important feeling to remember. It can be useful in any situation where you feel like you may not know what's next, or you may not know if you can do the next thing. I'd like it if you take it as a piece of homework to make someone feel like another human knows they can do it, whatever it happens to be. With that seed planted in my head, I continued down the long path of math class after math class after math class. I knew Steve's classes were hard and part of me was terrified, but a small part of me was cocky and knew I was smart enough to do it. That's an important part to listen to sometimes. The part that knows you can do it, the often very, at least for me, really quiet me part that says, hey, maybe I can actually kick ass at this. Like I've done some cool things before. I'm quick to shut it up most of the time in an effort to remain humble and kind, even though I know that confidence does not mean you're not humble or kind. In fact, confidence is being kind to yourself. Steve's classes were really hard, and most of us didn't make it through his program. Steve had a huge amount to do with why I'm standing here today. He believed in me and always was one of my greatest mentors. One thing he told me that I always want to pass along in life is that if you always have to do the next right thing. This relates to all parts of your life. When you have a moral dilemma, a family feud, conflicting needs for yourself or someone else, you always just have to look at the options you have and do the right thing. Now, for me, I had the option of going to UIUC. My college had a transfer agreement, and that was the next right thing for me to do. So I had to go to it. So there have been a series of leaps of faith in my life. At 17, I moved to Texas to be with a boy. I took a job across the country where my husband didn't have anything lined up. But those leaps of faith are the only times you ever see if you can fly. And looking around this room and looking at all your posters, I see some pretty big wings. I finished up the transfer agreement requirements at Kishwaukee College and packed up for Champaign, leaving my husband and my family 3 hours away. And now here's where I didn't do the next right thing. I took some bad advice and took 3 physics courses, a math course, and a CS course, all in my first semester. It was terrible, let me tell you. One particular moment that's etched into my memory is coming out of my quantum mechanics exam. I had the exam paper in my hand with a big red 34 of 100 at the top. I was completely broken. I'd been suffering from depression and anxiety. I missed my family, I missed my husband. I didn't have any friends, and even worse, for the first time in my life, I was failing academically. I remember the class was over at night, and I sat on the curb outside of the lab, and I called my fiance at the time. He picked up and my heart broke. I choked back tears as long as I possibly could, and then broke down wishing the presumably well-adjusted, doing well students that were walking past couldn't see my red face. I cried into the phone and I said to him, I just want to come home. I can't do this anymore. I wanted to leave Illinois. I wanted to go home and figure something else out, anything else out. I wasn't cut out for UIUC, and I wasn't cut out to be an engineer. I had no more left to offer. My abilities meant nothing in this crazy competitive school where everyone made sure you knew how much they knew. Here's a place I'd like to stop and remind you about a recurring theme in life. Everyone's just faking it. Everyone's pretending to have their lives together. Everyone was pretending their homework was easy. And everyone was pretending to understand electromagnetic waves. Except for the professor with the proton painted on his car hood. I think he probably got it. So don't see the confidence that other people exude as truth. Sometimes they think they suck too. After that semester, I decided that CS was the only thing I loved about the prior semester, and decided to keep going down that path. As a failing engineering physics major who was supposed to be a junior, I registered in 2 CS classes and crossed my fingers. I had another noteworthy moment that same semester while in those 2 CS classes. I rushed away from my first on-campus interview with Microsoft, feeling great, off to an academic probation meeting. At the end of those meetings, they ask you what you're going to do to get off academic probation. I marched straight up to the dean at the front of the room and I said, I'm going to be a CS major, and that's how I'm going to get off probation. Now, before I tell you how much he laughed at me, I'll tell you that the average ACT scores of students that got in that semester was 34 out of 36. I hadn't taken an ACT. So thinking back, if I were in his shoes, I'd probably would laugh too. The thought of me fixing my bad grades by enrolling in a program I wasn't even qualified for was kind of funny. During that semester, I worked hard to get the grades I needed to get into the program, and I didn't get there. My grades weren't good enough. I filed my application to transfer in the department anyway, hoping for a miracle. When I got the email that my application had been rejected, I felt like it was completely over. The crippling fear of knowing that I hadn't fixed my probation situation, and they only give you 1 semester to do so. Along with disappointing myself, my family, my friends, my mentors washed over me. It was so bad, and later, I responded to the email as stubborn as ever and said, what can I do to get into the program? The response I got was, apply to a less competitive school if you want CS. After picking myself up off the floor, I had the guts to respond with this. Hi, I'm not leaving, so if you tell me what I can do, that'd be great. Now, surprisingly, he didn't call campus security or stop responding, but simply replied, retake the classes and get A's. That loud counterpart to the meek, humble part of myself screamed, we can't do this, stupid! And the little meek voice said, what's the harm in trying? I'll admit that for the first part of this decision-making process, I stayed a safe face. I didn't want to tell anyone I was getting kicked out of school, and I certainly didn't want to tell them why. I needed advice, so I asked a friend and mentor, and what she told me was written on my whiteboard in my apartment until I moved. It said, he's giving you the chance to prove it. She was right, and I learned another important lesson. Sometimes you have to prove yourself. It may not be fair, you may think you deserve it, but the reality is sometimes you just have to bust ass and prove that you're worth it. The fall of that year was my last shot. My academic probation grace had run out, and if I didn't get into the CS department by Christmas, I was going to have to leave UIUC. Here's where I had a turning point, though. I could have thrown myself into the library for 16 weeks, never come out, hired a tutor, and thrown hundreds of hours into MPs, but I decided to do something I loved. I worked hard in my classes, yes, but I also followed my passions. I ran corporate team for the first ever Hack Illinois. I taught middle school computer science to 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. I helped start a club for iOS development, and I interviewed for jobs. See, the thing is, when you're involved and invested in your education in your college, you do better. I've seen this over and over and over in my life experiences at community college, university, and even in my job. When you're personally invested in a department or company or team, you'll be more engaged and more successful. That semester, I was fully immersed in the CS department for all of its strengths and weaknesses. I felt the very real feeling of imposter syndrome for the first time, and I really wondered if I was cut out to be an engineer, because I didn't look like the rest of them, I didn't act like the rest of them, I didn't exude confidence like the rest of them. And I actually recently had a conversation with my manager's manager. The guy has over 100 engineers below him, and he admitted to us that he has imposter syndrome. It about blew me over. This man has been working on Word for over 20 years, and he still doubts his abilities. This is a lesson that we all face imposter syndrome, and knowing that it exists and recognizing it is the very most important thing you can do. At the end of that semester, I knew what my grades would be. The 2 classes I needed A's in, I had a B+ and an A-. I submitted my transfer application and hoped for the best. It was Christmas Eve when I got the email that I was accepted into the CS department. Best Christmas gift ever, by far. I had secured a technical PM role at Groupon for the following summer, and now I was actually in. I'd thrown myself into deep waters, and it paid off as I learned how to swim. I had lots of disappointments and struggled in my decision to move forward in Illinois, as I often felt like I was in a pressure cooker. Anybody at Stanford probably understands. Every semester I had points where I was sure it was all over. I was going to fail and never graduate, but I persevered. The lesson you can learn here is that no matter how challenging it gets, and no matter how much you think you can't do it, if it's something you really want and something you really care about, you'll have it. Perseverance and patience is what will get you there, along with a little bit of hard work. My last year of college was a roller coaster. I thought it would never end. It took me 8 years to get a bachelor's degree. I interviewed with tons of companies and got turned down a bunch. I got my dream offer at Microsoft as an engineer and was terrified that I had fooled every single person into letting me work there. When I found out I was being honored with the Knights of St. Patrick, I was floored. I had crappy grades and not enough time to put on makeup most days, yet I'd done something profound enough to be noticed and honored. I got lots of helping hands that made that last year a reality, including scholarships and friendly support. And I learned that whenever you can, you have to give back. You must. If it hadn't been people to lift me up, I wouldn't be here talking to you today. While I'm on the subject of first jobs and offers and moving on after college, as I was writing this speech, I wondered, how was I supposed to encourage you and inspire you when I feel like my own life isn't completely together? Then, as I was thinking about it, I realized there have always been people in my life that seem to have it all together. And I've been the person who seemed to have it all together. And let me tell you, most of us are pretending. Most of us are faking being happy and productive all the time, even in college with my millions of activities and jobs and classes. Sometimes I would just eat ice cream and watch Disney movies all day long. Meanwhile, my peers thought I had it all figured out. Now, in my career, I've noticed that nobody talks about transition. No one talks about how hard it is going from moving nonstop and doing a million activities and never having a moment where you don't think you should be doing homework, to wanting to hit goals at work, wanting to develop hobbies so you can be well-rounded, wanting to maintain relationships and spend time improving yourself. We're told we should get up and meditate before working out and meal prepping on healthy foods. And taking the time to find ourselves while we make new out-of-college friends. Let me tell you, there can be too many plates spinning, and sometimes you have to relearn to balance them, and setting one down occasionally is okay too. I've learned about being genuine and bringing your best self to work, and being who you are, but underneath that thin layer of being your best self, some of us are just trying to figure it all out, and that's okay. Even spending a mental health day, binge watching Netflix is okay too. Just because you graduate and get a full-time job doesn't mean adulting comes easy. There will be deadlines you miss, goals you don't hit personally and professionally, relationships you neglect, and you might even forget to pay a bill on time once. Not saying, my husband pays the bills. Understands that it happens, and it happens to everyone, is the best learning you can have as you start your careers. A recent experience of mine was when I checked in some code that broke a partner app and it had to be fixed quickly. I felt like my head was on a spike, and I was really glad I had a dog to get me through my unemployment. But as it came time to do a root cause analysis on the issue, I realized something. There are a lot of people, and a lot of people make mistakes. You don't get hired for being a machine. You don't get into college for being a machine. They have machines. So, to make great things happen, work hard, be kind to yourself, let yourself make mistakes, be gracious with your mind and body, and others will be too. Thank you.
This concludes the pre-gala section of tonight.